Chanel Petro Nixon was an American teenager who was strangled to death in Brooklyn, New York, United States in 2006. In 2016, Varen Primus was charged with the murder. Chanel Petro Nixon was born in mid-1989 and lived in the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn, New York, with her father Anthony Garvin, her mother Lucita Nixon, and her brothers Marcus and Giovanni. She was a member of the Mount of Olives Seventh-day Adventist Church on Bushwick Avenue and was considered devout by her family based on her church and prayer attendance. She was also an 11th grader at Boys and Girls High School, and was known as a straight-A student who spent her after-school hours in the library. According to Nancy Grace of CNN, she wanted to become a nurse to help other people. Death on Sunday, June 18, 2006, Petro Nixon left her family's home, telling them she was walking to the Applebee's restaurant near New York Avenue and Fulton Street, to meet a friend. She never returned home. 4 days later, her body was discovered in a trash bag in front of 212 Kingston Avenue. It was determined that Petro Nixon had been strangled. Petro Nixon was buried at Rosedale and Roche Hill Cemetery, located in Linden, New Jersey. Reaction following his daughter's murder, Anthony Garvin was quoted as saying, "I don't trust anybody. That person shaking your hand, smiling in your face, could be the one who did this." Petro Nixon's mother, Lucita, took a different viewpoint, stating, "I won't let anger poison me." A teenage friend of Petro Nixon said, "She would never do anything wrong." The friend also said that two had read the Da Vinci Code together and that Petro Nixon was a good student. She had good grades. "I would call her the little nerd." Petro Nixon's parents made a plea to the public requesting help finding her killer. They also visited the site where she was found. On July 7, 2006, the Brooklyn branch of the NAACP sent a letter to Police Commissioner Raymond W. Kelly requesting a meeting. The letter mentioned increasing rates of crime, inadequate police response, and the murder of Petro Nixon. Investigation police quickly appealed to the public for information, offering an initial reward of $12,000 for useful information. At a later date, the reward amount was increased, ultimately reaching $38,000. The fund represents contributions by Mayor Michael R. Bloomberg, the New York Daily News, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and the New York City Police Department. No one has claimed the reward. The New York City Police Department interviewed all of Petro Nixon's friends and collected hundreds of tips. An article in the New York Daily News focused on Petro Nixon's white sneakers, with the hope that someone would have recognized her shoes. Cops hope a photo of 16-year-old Chanel Petro Nixon's white and pink retro Jordan sneakers will jog a witness memory and help investigators track down the Brooklyn girl's killer. David Stein, head of the detective squad working the case, was quoted as saying, "You see a case like this maybe once in a career." Arrest in June 2016, Brooklyn District Attorney Kenneth Thompson announced that former Crown Heights resident Varen Primus had been formally charged with Petro Nixon's murder. Primus had been a school friend of Petro Nixon's, and it was later found that he was the friend she was meeting at Applebee's on the day she disappeared. It was reported that he was considered a suspect from day one, but there had not been enough evidence to lead to an arrest. Some years after Petro Nixon's murder, Primus had also served time in prison for violating a restraining order and was deported to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, following his release. In 2016, while in St. Vincent, he became a suspect in the abduction of one woman and the murder of another. While investigating these crimes, St. Vincent authorities found new evidence linking Primus to Petro Nixon's murder. They contacted New York investigators, who traveled to the island and were then able to issue an indictment. As of 2017, Primus is being held in St. Vincent, awaiting trial for the unrelated murder of a 33-year-old estate agent named Charlene Greaves. Thompson stated that he wished for Primus to be returned to the United States and stand trial for Petro Nixon's murder. Aftermath murder statistics conducted by the NYPD and obtained by the New York Daily News had mentioned Petro Nixon. Another murder which occurred on the same day as Petro Nixon's was mentioned, and there was speculation that both murders may be related. New York Daily News columnist Errol Louis, who tried to keep the story alive in the press, reported that there was an upward spike in murder in Crown Heights by 122%, and that community meetings were being held by Assemblyman Kareem Kamara. Petro Nixon's mother was quoted in a New York Times story related to the case. "We try our best to keep it alive, and we really don't want her death to be in vain." In January 2007, CNN aired a video featuring Nancy Grace discussing unsolved murders. As of the 24th of June 2007, the case had still not been solved. There were no witnesses known to have seen Petro Nixon murdered, nor had any suspects been identified. The Reverend Al Sharpton joined with the television show, America's Most Wanted, in trying to solve the mystery of her murder and used strong language directed to the black community in presenting the case of Petro Nixon's murder. Petro-Nixon's mother, Lucida, had been scheduled to receive a Survivor's Award during January 2008. More than 2 years had passed and there had been no further revelations in Petro Nixon's murder. On June 19, 2010, a rally, march, and prayer vigil were held in honor of Petro Nixon. The blog site mentioning this rally also stated that as of that late date no further evidence of her murder had been provided. A website was created in memory of Petro Nixon as well as to reach out to the public to obtain information or help in locating her murderer. See also List of solved missing persons cases, List of unsolved deaths. References. Further reading: Pazer, Andrea, July 29, 2006. It's Open Season on Young Gals. New York Post. Archived from the original on March 6, 2012. Retrieved November 13, 2007. Boyce, Kelly, July 22, 2010. 4 years later, a vigil seeks clues to a teenager's murder. The Brooklyn Inc. External links: Yair, Raxar. August 1, 2006. Honors student murdered. Sax Talk wants to help. Sax Talk. Archived from the original on August 5, 2006. Retrieved June 25, 2007.